innovators. I'm Todd and welcome to the Bridging the Gap podcast presented by Applied Software. You're invited to join our MEP and construction innovation adventure with a mission to propel this great industry forward. My guest today is David Broomhead. He's the CEO and founder of Hounds. He comes from a family of trade workers, which has helped him shine a light on the gap between the technology-enabled tools powering today's services jobs that just aren't available for the skilled trades. Intent on proving the need for something new, he set to work. Welcome to the show, David.
Thanks for having me, Todd. It's great to be here.
Yeah, so you had the family connection to the trades, but what about that made you want to make a career out of it on your own?
You know, I get asked that a lot. And for me, it was just like, a lot of my uncles were in the trades. My mother was actually the GC and she got all her brothers to work for her. It's kind of cool.
Nice.
Mate, like they just busted their ass every day and no one really gave them, gratification. It's not that they needed that, but I was like, hey, what if someone built them a digital home and helped improve their lives through giving better educational content, better safety content, getting them brand deals, getting them more jobs, kind of like a LinkedIn out there. And no one had built that. Mm-hmm. So I was like, what the hell? So that was kind of the one big thing that I saw. And I've always liked the challenge. And I said, this is a great challenge to bring on. And it's going to improve the lives of the hardworking people, like building the world around us. So I was like, it's a really good, thing to try and solve and improving the lives. So it's great. Yeah.
Nice. What do you think is one of the misconceptions around the industry?
I think I'm from Australia and it's a bit different in Australia. I think the way our education system is set up is a bit differently and the way people interact is a bit differently. I think in Australia, a lot of white collar and blue collar families are like intertwined versus in America, it's very segregated. And I think if you there's a perception here, like if you go to the Vogue, that means you couldn't get into college. That means like, oh, you're not smart enough and like BS like that. And the reality is I think that's changing now because everyone's like coming out of college with all this debt and getting jobs that they hate, but then they're on this wheel where they have to work to pay off this debt. And guys are coming out of the Vogue making good money and they don't have any debt. So it's like, I think that the tide's really turned. I think it's only getting better for the skilled trades community in America. And I think we've got to try and change this perception of branding that you got to go to college to be successful. We've heard Mike Rowe and a bunch of people always talk about it, but we got to keep on beating that drum, being like, going to the Vogue and getting the trades is a great opportunity, and you can make a ton of money. You're working outside with your buddies, like it's very different to an office environment. So don't look down on it, man. See it as an opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I talk a lot on. I think there's a marketing problem here in construction that we historically have done a bad job of really communicating what the industry actually is now. And we let other people that don't know anything about construction kind of define what's happening in a construction. Right. And they're just relying on super old, outdated stereotypes from decades ago and not comparing that to the reality of what a job site actually is in today's world.
Yeah, there's that. I think it starts with the teachers, it starts with the parents, and it starts from an early age. You're not going to solve the skills gap tomorrow, but I would love to get more summer programs in construction spun up. People out there making good dollars on the holidays, and you're outside in the sun having a good time. It's a big opportunity, I think, to rebrand and change that perception.
Yeah. So how do we ramp up and then attract the next generation into the skilled trades and really kind of get them excited to come into the trades and not view it as that kind of backup option, or, you couldn't get into college, so I guess you just go into construction?
Yeah, it's a challenging one, man. And I think there's a lot of brands out there, tool companies, apparel companies, unions, trying to do things individually and throwing small dollars at it and kind of, it's not really moving the needle. I'm proposing, and this is something that I'm trying to do personally, is a unified effort where everyone comes in under one umbrella and everyone puts dollars in, everyone is executing a same strategy, which I think you need to get the federal level government and state level government involved, where you're changing policy, there's tax incentives to go into the vote, where they're re-educating and they're repurposing a lot of those dollars to the parents and the teachers, to summer programs, to show them the opportunities that lie in construction. Not only construction, but I think like any kind of the blue collar workforce, manufacturing, some of the STEM trades out there, fisheries are struggling, oil and gas is struggling. There needs to be a massive playbook, and it starts with the teachers and parents, and everyone needs to come under one umbrella and do it, and you need to leverage these brands' marketing platforms and the dollars that they have. And then you can help and change that perception through the marketing spend there, but then also bring in influencers that these kids look up to help change the messaging and perception of the trades also.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I more than agree with that. But who in the industry really then owns changing that narrative to attract that next generation?
We all do. We all do. And I think that's the problem, is everyone's trying to do it on their own, and we all got to come together and unify and do it together. You got to think that individually, the average age of a plumber in Boston is 55, the average age of an electrician is 53. There's going to be a massive skills drop off over the next 5 or 10 years, and then taking all that knowledge with them. How do we transfer that knowledge across down to the next generation? I think there's got to be some real thinking around that, because that's going to be a big problem. I think we have a problem now, wait for 5 to 10 years. It's got to be a unified effort, I'm telling you.
Yeah. So with that kind of in mind, how does the construction industry need to change in response? You have the great resignation that's happening, that's taking people out. And then you also have a really high rate of retirements. As you just pointed out, that the average age of worker is way higher in construction than in pretty much every other industry.
What can the individual construction company do?
Yeah. How does the kind of maybe the company, but the industry as a whole, how does it need to change and adapt to respond to kind of these growing pressures on it?
I think there's opportunity with the Great Resignation to get people, more of those, people that were unhappy with the current work environment, into the trades, number one. I think, look at the retail sector. A lot of people lost their jobs during the pandemic. 25% of the hotels and restaurants shut down during the pandemic. Mm-hmm. Why are we trying to attract them into the trades? I think one thing that they might have to look at is also the education piece, because what 20 or 30-year-old wants to go back and do a 4-year electrical apprenticeship. Mm-hmm. Is there opportunity to not loosen the rules, but have a more flexible approach to get more people into the trades by changing out licensing and policy around that? And then, like I said earlier, it's changing the branding around for the next generation. So that's the kind of 2-tiered approach that I think you can do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's interesting. So what should the role of the trade school be then, with, you mentioned maybe there's some more flexibility that we might need to look at in training the people from other industries coming into the trades. What's the role of the trade school in that process?
Well, mate, trade schools are fully booked. There's a waiting list.
Right.
They're doing all they can. That's the challenging part. You need more trade schools. You need more dollars. You need more dollars from the federal and state government. So they're doing all they can, and they're doing a great job. I think unions can get more involved. Unions have had a slow membership decline. I think there's got to be a bigger push potentially to get people into the union. Obviously that gets political, and people either side might have a different opinion. But at the end of the day, there's a 4 million housing shortage in America, right? That's a huge gap. And you have an infrastructure bill that's coming out that has 10 years of $1 trillion worth of spend on infrastructure. And there's a declining workforce that's going to hit a massive cliff in the next 5 or 10 years. So you've got all these factors leading to a worsening condition. So there needs to be a unified effort from the schools, from the unions, from training facilities to help get more people into the trades. But there has to be policy change, and they need to change the narrative.
Mm-hmm. Should the companies also really go out and take an active role in going into high schools even and helping kind of show what's going on in the industry now and helping build some of that hype, and then helping on the backside of it really ramp people up faster as well too, and kind of be pushing that. Or
I think that's the challenging part, right? Because construction is a risky business. It operates on low margins.
mm-hmm.
So ramping up, and especially the skill force, creates a safety risk, and that's going to be a big no to a lot of companies. But I understand the drive to do that. I think they could play a role. I think obviously what you mentioned about going in, doing lunch and learns and things like that, I think is going to help. But I think like there's a good opportunity of like offering internships or apprentices for like summer programs, being like, hey, come and work on the tools for the weekend, work on this really cool job site, or like being engineering, being architecture, being like in different areas of the trades, not just on the tools. I think that's where getting them in that environment, because that's something that I realized because I went into finance. I'm like, I'm sitting in a cubicle looking at spreadsheets all day. This sucks. Versus like banging nails with my uncles and drinking beer afterwards and like listening to the radio. I was like, I'd much prefer that. And I think people, until they realize that and they see the difference of the two worlds, it gives them a better perspective of what they should do with their future.
Yeah, that makes total sense. I think the apprenticeship and getting them in early is it's a great idea, because so many schools have taken shop class out, and so they're not getting that exposure in high school. And so by going in and being really proactive and saying, hey, come on, we're going to take you young, we're going to kind of show you the ropes and get that exposure. I think that's a good way to kind of supplement the lack of shop class exposure to working with your hands and building something.
Right. And I think it's like that sense of achievement as well. Like with today's demographic being so heavily influenced by technology and using technology a lot. Like for me personally, like, I run a tech company, I'm on my phone and computer all the time. I love getting out on the weekend and like not touching a phone on my computer. Like getting outdoors, even with if it's riding my bike or like going around to help reno a house, like it's real stuff. Working on your car, it's real stuff. I think like that's really good to kind of bring back into people's lives, and it's really important because I think technology plays too much of a role in the next generation's lives. Yeah.
So how do you kind of bridge that gap between the technology aspect that's needed to push the industry forward and the message of, no, go out and do something with your hands and build it and from the ground up? It's really cool sense of accomplishment for sure.
Yeah. Again, like you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink, right? So I think making it available as an option and giving as much data and information you can to the student, being like, it's not all about your phone and technology and you want to do this, but there are these other trades out there and it's hands-on. Some of it can be tough, or you can work in the office, or you can work in design and architecture. You can also, if you're a mathematician or into like different stuff, you can be into engineering and things like that, or structural stuff. Like there's different parts of the industry that you can work in. And I think giving them exposure to that can really drive more people into the industry.
Nice. What do you think is the future of the skilled trades labor market?
What is the future? It's going to be tough. I think, I think it's only going to get worse before it gets better, until there's a unified effort. And there's a lot of support from the government, because a lot of people are talking about it and doing like hidden singles, and it's not going to work until we all come together. So I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. But I think in 20, or hopefully not 20 years, but in 10 years, it's a different world, and we've hopefully changed that perception and the brand of the trades, and there's more people coming into it. I mean, look at Germany's model, for instance. Like tradespeople there are more respected than bankers and finance people there. So I think there's a lot we can learn, and it really starts with government and everyone coming together.
Well, do you think that that's the biggest hurdle then in achieving a successful result, is getting that
Yeah.
cross collaboration.
And yeah, man, that's what I'm trying to do. I think I'm trying to be Switzerland, and not me, trade hounds, like me individually. I'm trying to put this together because we're talking to these brands from a business perspective for trade hounds, but I have one-on-one conversations with them because they want us to get involved with their program. And I'm like, to be completely honest, we need you and your dollars and your platform and 100 others to come together as one.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to blast this and change this together. And they've all kind of agreed with that and said, this problem's bigger than the Walton Milwaukee. We're happy to come together and try and fix this. It's going to take time, effort, and dollars, but it's definitely worth it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I think the old saying of a rising tide lifts all boats. I think that's totally true, especially in this situation, because once everybody comes together and kind of uses their platform and their microphone in one common unison, that's when that message is really going to jump out beyond just the construction bubble and really start hitting other people outside of it that we need to be talking to, instead of just talking to ourselves and saying, yeah, we got a problem here. We have to break out of that and reach new audiences.
Right. Absolutely.
So going back, you had talked about earlier of, people wanting to make the leap into construction from other industries, but not necessarily want to do a full 4-year apprenticeship program. For those people in that boat, what should they do now currently if they want to get in? Like what's the process look like for them?
It's a great question. I think it's talk to your buddies that are in the trades and, come along and do a ride along and work them for a couple of days and bang some nails or fool around a job site to figure out what's right for you. And then, whether you want to be union, non-union, a lot of non-union shops offer training and courses to get you in an entry level. And then if you want to train up, a lot of them will pay for your training now. They use training and education as a part of a retention tool, which is definitely seeing great results. And there's a variety of different platforms out there, whether it's going through the vocational school or other kind of education platforms out there to help get trained up.
Mm-hmm. And then kind of circling back on people coming together, do you see more people really kind of resonating with that of, yeah, let's come together, let's all unify? Or are people still kind of trying to feel each other out? They don't want to give away their secret sauce or their advantage, and so they're kind of stuck in a competitive mode? Or are people really starting to band and come together?
Well, no one's really coming at it from the angle that I've come at it from. I think everyone's tried to, like you said, that like a lot of the big brands hate each other. They don't want to play with each other.
Right.
And it's not about giving away secret sauce. I think it's about, hey, we're trying to solve this big problem and it affects all of us. Let's all come together and, add our platforms to unify and execute on a strategy that we've all agreed to and put real marketing dollars behind it and have some influence on Capitol Hill and other kind of like influence out there that these kids look up to. That's just going to take some time to get it all together. But I think everyone's very motivated because they've talked about this problem for such a long time and no one's really moved the needle yet.
Yeah. So cast kind of your vision in 10 years, if you had your way, what would it look like?
In 10 years, what would it look like? So right now there's, depending on who you ask, it's between 2 to 4 million open jobs in construction in America. That's a lot. Mm-hmm. It's only going to get worse with the housing shortage and the infrastructure bill. So, it's an economics problem. You need more bodies. You need more people to come into the trade. I think there's a great opportunity with the great resignation and the retail industry to capture that audience and get them into the trades. That's a piece where I think we can get a large percentage of them. And I think that's a short-term solution, in my opinion, like 1 to 3 years, and 5 to 10 is the rebranding and re-education of parents and high school and primary school teachers around the trades. And that's just going to take time because for the last 30 years, they've told their kids to go to college. And that's going to take time to re-educate and then filter through down to the kids and get them more involved and have some programs, have more exposure to the trades and getting construction industries spun out. It's going to take us, probably 1 year to get it all together, 1 year to pilot it, 3 years to have it in the field. So that's the lag there already. So in 10 years time, hopefully we have everyone working under one umbrella to try and solve this problem. And we have a completely different perception of construction, and guys are proud driving around in that. There's probably going to be a boom in F-150s and the gnarlies rolling around, but it's going to be, I think, a great day when you see more people coming out of the vote than in high school and going to college.
Yeah, very cool. Do you think that we should kind of do away with the white collar versus blue collar mindset and you really using those terms even is it time to kind of reassess our thinking and our branding of those terms?
Yeah, I mean, they're really from the 50s and 60s, right? After World War II, when everyone kind of was kind of labeled an either office job or non-office job. I think yes. I think this next generation is very open-minded to that. How you brand it or what you call it, I don't have a clue. I'm sure we can pay some marketing coming to figure something out. But I think so. But for right now, it's just the easiest terminology we have, right? So, hey man, maybe in the future, blue collar jobs are crushing it, and they're making 2 to 3x office jobs. So maybe it's a cool.
Well, some of them already are.
Oh man, I'm telling you, the amount of money my friends are making in the trades is ridiculous. And then they're making cash and side work on the weekend. So it's a badge of honor in my opinion, and they're having a lot of fun doing it.
Yeah. I think, one of the cool things about construction that I don't think people really grasp outside of the industry is there is so much possibility of job opportunities when you're in the industry. You can start, swinging a hammer and go anywhere in the industry. You can do almost anything, any type of job position, which is really cool.
And anywhere in the world, and you can start your own business if you're an entrepreneur. There's a lot of opportunity.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a message that we really need to hammer home harder and get out more, because the opportunity options are so much more vast in construction than I think in any other industry. I can't think of another industry that has so much kind of movement and flexibility options that are present here in construction.
Absolutely.
So if you could kind of snap your fingers and innovate one thing about the construction industry, what would it be?
Innovate one thing about construction industry. That's a good one. I haven't been asked that. No deaths. I think to have 100% fatality in the safest sites in the world, I think that's something that I think we should try and strive for.
Can't beat that. I mean, that's a great one. Nobody has said that yet on that response. That's a spot on. That's perfect. I love it. So what is Trade Hounds for the audience, and how do people find more information and connect with you?
Trade Hounds is the largest online community of construction workers in America. Download the app for free. It's in both the iOS and it's an Android. It's an Android and iOS app. You can get it in the App Store. We've got a lot of cool things coming. So, we're all about educating and supporting the trades, skilled trades, giving advice about your craft, getting jobs. We have brand deals on there from the best brands, from tool companies to apparel companies. So, it's all about improving the lives of the worker. So, get out there and check it out.
Nice. Well, final question for you, David. What does innovation mean to you?
Change and improvement. I think that's the main kind of shtick that we kind of drive here through technology.
Yeah, I think even those kind of small micro changes and improvements, they add up big over time.
Yep, absolutely.
Well, David, thanks so much for taking the time and joining the show.
Thanks for having me, Todd. Thanks for bridging the gap, and looking forward to grabbing a couple of beers this weekend.
Sounds good.